What you eat and when on the morning of a race can have a great impact on how the race goes. Hey everybody, Coach Al in my kitchen here in Nokomis, Florida. Thank you for joining me. Earlier in the week, I had shared an email about training intensity, and I asked the question, have we made it too complicated? You know, I know many of you are approaching some races this weekend, so I thought I would shoot a video and share a nutrition tip with you. And it has to do with your pre-race meal, when you eat it and what you eat. And I'm going to do a little demonstration today that may gross you out, but hopefully it'll share some things with you that are important and positively impact how your race goes. You know, when we look at racing successfully, feeling good, and going as fast as we can, perhaps the thing we need the most to do that, besides a high level of fitness, is a clean, happy stomach. I can't tell you how many times I've heard over the years of athletes that brought so much fitness to their race, yet they were unable to perform to their best because they had some GI distress, some nausea, and even in some instances they ended up throwing up right on the race course. How does that happen and why, and what can we do to prevent it? Well, the reason that our stomach can get upset is when food, whatever we put in it, whether it's liquid or solid, doesn't go anywhere. The concentration of that solution in your gut becomes too concentrated, things are not absorbed, and digestion doesn't happen in the way that we want it to. And we don't think about these things necessarily when we're a couple of hours into a race, but we really need to. And the way to avoid problems like that is to make sure that we're eating the right foods and at the right time prior to our race. Now, from the very earliest days of my coaching, I have recommended to athletes to eat at least 3 hours before their race. And then once they have a pre-race meal, whatever it may be, and for whatever the distance of the race, once that pre-race meal is in the tank, so to speak, to not eat or consume any calories between that moment in time and the start of the race. And there's very good reasons why I've made those recommendations, and they have to do with exactly what I'm talking to you about today. So I'm going to do a little demonstration and kind of paint a scenario for you, which I think is actually really common, and maybe this will help. So just imagine, well, first of all, let me share a few things that I've got here to help with my demonstration. These are some items that you or almost any average triathlete might consume on the morning of a race. Maybe 1 hour before, maybe 2 hours before, and maybe even 3 hours before. But trust me, there's a big difference between 3 hours and 1 hour, that's for sure, because that's 2 hours less time for digestion to begin and for food to start to move out of your stomach. But I've got some typical items here. A little bit of black coffee, a small little Clif bar that I've broken into some pieces, a Clif shot, which is a typical thing to consume a few minutes before the race start, a gel of any kind really, doesn't matter, some water, a half a bagel with some peanut butter, and some Gatorade. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to paint a picture of what your stomach might actually look like. So let's start with that Clif bar. I'm going to put that in there. Maybe it's a couple hours before the race. You know, you like a bagel or some toast with a little peanut butter. Put that in there. All of us, I mean, most of us like a little coffee. Maybe you like a little cream with your coffee, I'm not sure. Gatorade or some sports drink. I mean, who doesn't drink a little bit of this before the start of our race? You might be in the habit of sipping on it prior to the start of the race. And then here's our Clif shot. Again, any gel pack but kind of, you know, I guess convey the point. Hello there. You stay down there, okay? In a little video. And then a little water. This is my kitty cat. Crash. Decided to come over. It's like, what's going on there? What kind of fun am I missing out on? What? I know. All right. So there it is. Let me mix it up a little bit. Shake it up. Swirl it around. So you just had your typical pre-race breakfast. Maybe it's an hour before the race. Hello there. You get down, please. Thank you. That's your stomach, folks. How's it look? So, you know, it's maybe 10 miles in on the bike, 15 miles in on the bike, and you're thinking, I got to get some calories in, so you're into your fueling routine. Maybe 200 to 300 calories per hour. If you're like some of those athletes that like to sip a sports drink between your meal and the start of the race, you're just continuing to add some kind of concentrated sugared water into this solution. So even if you're adding plain water, when you have a solution like this in your stomach, what you've essentially done is increased the osmolality of this solution, made it more concentrated. I've seen many athletes who have continually taken in water during a race, yet at the same time become dehydrated. And you'd say, well, how is that possible? If I'm drinking 25 to 35 ounces an hour of water, how could I become dehydrated? And the answer to that is if you put water into your stomach when this solution is sitting there, it's liable that none of it is going to be absorbed. It's not going anywhere. It's just going to continue to back up. And what you're going to have is a very unhappy stomach where at some point in time you're either going to have to get rid of what's there or suffer the consequences, which is nausea. So, what's the answer? The answer is to remember that, first of all, transit time is about 15 to 18 hours. Whatever you put in your mouth before it comes out the other side, that's about a 15 to 18 hour period of time. That means the night before the race, eat fairly early and make sort of, let's say, the middle of the day before the race, your largest meal. That way you're really giving yourself that full 18 to 24 hours for transit time to occur. That's going to reduce the chance of any bathroom problems. The second thing to consider is, in that pre-race meal, have simple, easily digestible foods. Because the more complex these foods are, the more protein and fat in them, the more difficult they'll be for your body to digest. The second thing is, or the third thing is, make sure you eat early enough before the race. So, I mean, there's no magic about a 3-hour window, except it's more than 2 hours or 1 hour, and it's still a reasonable period of time. So if you're looking at an 8 a.m. race start, you're looking at eating at 5. That's in a reasonable period of time. It's probably the time you're getting up anyway. So the 3 hours at least provides the opportunity for the digestion process to start and for it to move along. And in the interim between that meal and the start of the race, you don't need to be taking in additional calories. You certainly don't need to be sipping on a sports drink. If you're sipping on a sports drink 1 hour before your race or a half hour before your race, all you're doing is adding to this mess which is in your stomach. And all of that is going to come back to bite you potentially as your race unfolds. Because remember, GI issues 1 or 2 hours or 3 hours or 5 hours into a race is a reflection of what you put into your stomach many hours earlier. So obviously test whatever you're planning to eat on race day. If you can use more liquid calories, then that's going to be better. Those are more easily digested. Be kind to your stomach so that when you start the race and as you get into the race, your stomach will be happy. And if it's happy, you're happy. You'll be able to tap into the fitness that you've worked so hard to build. One last thing to remember. You have anywhere from 1,500 to 2,000 calories of stored glycogen in your muscles and liver if you've been eating normally prior to the start of your race. That's what your body is going to tap into when it starts. So let it do what it loves to do physiologically, very naturally. Utilize some stored glycogen, depending on the distance of the race. Maybe utilize a little fat as fuel as well. Keep your stomach happy and avoid this mess. All right, hope that helps. Good luck this weekend.